All right, we're going to continue to follow that. Let's head on now to Hillary Clinton and Latino Outreach Director Lorella Praeli. She is joining us at the Javits Center in New York City. That is where Hillary Clinton will have her watch party. It's good to see you there, Lorella. Hispanic voters were around 10% of the final electorate in 2012. The contentious attitude towards the Republican candidate Donald Trump has been cited as one of the rallying cries for Hispanics to not only vote, but to also register and vote in their first election. So how great do you expect their impact to be this year?
I think their impact is going to be incredible in this election, and I think it's not just in terms of turnout, but it is also about how often and how quickly they were ready to register to vote in this election, and then turn out for Hillary Clinton and to make sure that their voices are heard. And so what we are seeing in the early vote across the country in North Carolina and Nevada and Florida is that, you know, these numbers were doubling if you compare them to 2012 data of when Hispanics turned out and voted early.
Lorella, I want to ask you about what we've been sort of tracking over the last hour or so, which is what's happening there in Clark County, Nevada. The Donald Trump campaign filing a lawsuit saying that folks were allowed to vote after the early vote polls had closed. The Nevada GOP chairman, Michael McDonald, said they kept the polls open until 10 o'clock so a certain group could vote. What are you hearing? What's your reaction?
You know, our reaction is that there's a lot of enthusiasm in this election. There are a lot of people coming out and making sure that their voices are heard. And the truth is, if you're in line by the time the polls close, your voices need to be heard and you're allowed to vote. And so I think this is nothing more than a desperate attempt by the Trump campaign. And I think the most important message in this election and the critical thing about today is for people to make sure that their voices are heard and that we are not distracted by this. You know, I got to vote today in the first presidential election ever. I couldn't do that in 2012 because I was undocumented. And I want to make sure that everyone who has the right to vote today makes sure that their votes count and that their voices are heard.
Certainly a lot of Americans will remember the fiasco in Florida in 2000, Bush v. Gore. But when you hear the GOP chairman, Michael McDonald, say that they were kept open because of certain people, what does that signify to you?
Excuse me, I couldn't hear you.
I said the GOP chairman in Nevada says that the polls were kept open for certain people. A lot of people might read that as to mean Hispanic voters.
Yeah, I mean, here's the truth. The Republican Party and Donald Trump from the beginning have had a war against Latino voters, right? So when you launch your campaign calling Latinos criminals and rapists, and then you spend all cycle, the whole campaign, trashing Latino voters and really trying to scare them and denigrate them and not value their contributions, then, you know, you continue to see that all the way until today. And I don't think that's just Donald Trump. I really do think that we've seen other Republican leaders stand up with Trump when they've tried to come after a community. And so, you know, I think we've heard bad hombre, we've heard this certain group, and I think that's given us all of the power to make sure that we turn out and make sure our voices are heard and our votes are counted in this election.
According to a CBS News and the latest poll that we have, 54% of Hispanic voters in Florida are voting for Hillary Clinton, just 34% for Donald Trump. There's a lot of talk about this Hispanic surge in Florida. Could this election come down to the Hispanic vote?
I think this election is going to come down to the Latino vote if people turn out. You know, the truth is this election is not over. We have a long way to go today. And this election is decided when the last ballot is casted and counted. And so what we want to make sure to do is to remind people that we are making history this year. We want to make sure that everyone is a part of it, whether you are a recent or a new citizen or a first-time voter, that your voices are heard. But I mean, if you look at Florida, you have an incredible amount of new people coming out to vote. If you look at North Carolina, you have an 86% increase. In Florida, you have 1 million Latinos that have voted. That's 50%. That is double the amount of Latinos that voted early in 2012. And so we are feeling optimistic, but never too confident. We got to make sure that we continue to drive our volunteers today, that we continue to turn out and move from there.
All right, Lorella Praeli, who's over at the Javits Center, where Hillary Clinton is going to be watching the results tonight. Congratulations on voting for the first time, and good luck to you and your candidate.